Right, so this is video 3 this morning. I got a bunch of work to do, but I hadn't had any time to do any videos in a while, so I thought I'd spend a little bit of time with you guys this morning talking about some chainsaw stuff. Anyway, I got 5 trees to deal with here on my property that are dead, and then I got one which is alive, but it's a leaner, and it's kind of leaning towards my house, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. I'm gonna get up in that tree and take it down. I hate to do it too, because it's a healthy tree. One thing I hate doing as an adult is cutting down healthy trees. I mean, when I worked for my dad, I and my brother were working for my dad as mostly free labor when we were young, and you know, he would get a contract to clear cut an area to put houses, right? They you know, he'd get a bid in, and if he got it, then we'd have to go in. Of course, he had a few guys that worked for him and clear cut a section of wood where they were going to put houses, or we'd clear, you know, not necessarily even clear cut. We would just cut designated trees. You know, they might be say, oh, okay, we're going to put a house here, we're going to put a house over there. You know, and then we would go in and cut those trees down, remove them, etc. You know, we had, you know, what's called a stump grinder. You grind the old stump out and whatnot. Some hardcore work, you know, and you became a man real fast doing that work. It was a very big responsibility as a young person. Anyway, I was left off with this chainsaw bar, this 28-inch Husqvarna. But when I was younger, my dad used Stihl chainsaws. And they were big, heavy suckers, and he had a couple of others, but for smaller stuff, I got one of his saws. I don't know what happened to the others, but I got one of his saws, which was a McCullough. That was 60 cc. It's one of his medium saws. This saw, with this 28-inch bar, is what I consider my medium saw. Husqvarna 562 XP, and it's good for all this tree work around here. I could have used a bigger saw on that dangerous tree I took down a number of years ago. That was the whole reason I bought this saw, because I needed to get that tree down, and I didn't want to spend, you know, $2,000-3,000 for somebody to come and take it down, you know, when I already know how to do it. You know, it just took me longer because it was just me. 60-footer, red maple, huge trunk, part of the trunk still out there, because it goes through, like, there's an awning on the side of the old carriage house, and the tree was going, they built around the tree for the awning off of the old carriage house. From the carriage house, probably from the 1700s or 1800s, but they built around it the little awning on the side, and they put extra wood siding planks, and I know that there was an old ladder, an old wood ladder, extension ladder, and stuff like that underneath there. But now critters just like to go there and hang out. But that section of the trunk is still there. I cut it down to about I don't know, 6 inches or something above the little roof there on that awning. But it was a mother. So what I would do is I would climb the tree with my gaffs, my tree spikes, right? So I'd climb the tree, and I was limbing as I would go with my little top handle. And I got all the little stuff down, and then I had to start working on the big stuff. So I got the bull rope up. Shackles, lowering device down below. So I used Blake's hitch with the bull rope. That was how I took the load. I did not have the typical device that you would attach to the tree. And since I thought it was going to be a one-time deal, I didn't go out and buy one, and it's just me, right? Anyway, so I probably ought to get one. I don't know if I'll get one this time around or not, because I don't really need to lower anything. But that was over that old carriage house, and I had to lower all of that big stuff, 1,000-pound chunks. This was a huge tree. I got some pictures. I took pictures of it, but I had a few ropes up there to where I just work in one section of the tree, move to another section, and I would just transfer to another rope. So I fixed ropes up there. I had a few fixed ropes, and I could, instead of constantly moving ropes around, I fixed ropes. And of course I had my safety line that was always with me, but I had other ropes that I could transfer onto and go here and there in the tree, because it was that big, and one person, and then I was using the tree as its own crane to lower down stuff. So I had the bull rope going. The bull rope was tied to the base of the tree, and then it went up, and I had, so it's kind of, maybe you can visualize this, maybe you can't. So what I did is I made sure I had a really long tail on the bull rope, and I tied around the trunk of the tree, got that tied off, alright, and then I had the long tail, maybe a 10-foot tail of bull rope, okay, and then I used a CMI figure 8, a rescue 8. I used that as a lowering device because it's rated to 10,000 pounds, right? So if that failed, I don't remember. Let's just get past that for a minute. I'll think about it a bit. Maybe I'll come back in another video and just basically show you how I had it rigged. But anyway, I had the CMI Rescue 8, which is rated to 10,000 pounds. I had that rigged to lower. So once I dropped the piece onto the bull rope, which was, I had the straps, the nylon strap around, with the shackle. I think probably 3/4 or 5/8 shackle Crosby. So the bull rope went through the Crosby, and then I would just drop the piece. It didn't fall very far, so it'd fall down, and You know, maybe 6 inches or so, right, from the Crosby. And then when I would be up there and I would cut the piece, push it over, and it would drop onto the Crosby. Then if I had the big saw, I would clip it off up in the tree because I didn't want to haul that thing up and down, right? Because I got to get up and down. If you're working by yourself, you got to get up and down to do everything. So I'd leave the big saw up in the tree if I was working the big saw. The big saw. It's a big saw when you got a 28-inch bar on the 562 XP. That's the big saw. The T435 was the little saw, the big one and the little one. All right. So anyway, I'd go down. So the load is on the bull rope, which the load is being held by a Blake's hitch, which I tied off using the bitter end, right? So the bitter end of the bull rope, which was tied to the tree, that Blake hitched up to the rope, the bull rope going up from the lowering device. So I get down there, and I would just go ahead, because there's slack on the other side of the lowering device, which is the Rescue 8. I had slack on the other side, enough slack to where I could lower that thing down to the ground. And what I would do is I'd just get down there, and then I'd just go ahead, break the tension on my Blake's hitch, and just slowly lower that, let that bull rope just slowly go out, and lower that 1,000-pound chunk, maybe even 2,000 pounds. That's really big chunks of wood coming down. I'd lower it down to the ground. Go ahead and take the bull rope off the piece, and then I would figure out about how much I needed to do another piece up there, whatever I was looking at, and go ahead and make sure I had enough bull rope to go and tie off to it, and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's right. Get inventive when it's just you. Can't afford to hire nobody to come and help, so you get inventive. But I got 20-inch Oregon power cut bar, pro bar with the sprocket tip. Okay, I got that for that 562 XP. I got it for that, so that when I do these other trees, I got something that's got a little more oomph than the T435, you know. So I got big engine, little bar, right? So that way I got plenty of oomph for anything that I might encounter in these other trees, because they're nowhere near as big as that sucker. That thing was big. Not redwood size, but you know, I mean, pretty darn good size for a maple. But I got that one other tree out there. It's pretty doggone big. I want to get some slabs out of it. That's why I was talking about maybe having to get another larger saw at some point, so I could slab it with a chainsaw mill. I'm running out of time. I just turned off the timer. Whew. Warm one. I'm gonna do some. I found these mushroom spores. I'd forgot about them. I got them about a year ago or something. Hopefully they'll still work. I'm gonna take some of these chunks of tree and try to maybe do a little mushroom growing. See what happens. Anyway, you'll say, well, what's your system? Well, I learned with the Blake's hitch, tree climbing and stuff, but they got all kinds of neat stuff now that makes your life a little better. But I can't afford none of that crap, so I'll probably just go back to Blake's hitch. See you later. We'll come back in another one. I'll see you there.